All right, we are live. It's me. It's what is today? Tuesday, March 25th. Again, trying to iron out some of the problems in my knowledge of how this crap works, but getting a title and a thumbnail and all this stuff. But I wanted to get on this because I know people are hearing this mainstream bluff, just crap, just unbelievable stuff. And, uh, basically, I thought of a tagline I thought was cute, which is like callous, not hapless exit. Uh, and the reason I combined the two is not just because it's funny, but because the attacks that are happening and the suspects, the usual suspects that are slinging mud and having mud slung at them, are just a mud show, a feces show. Anything else we can say without, in front of the kids. But um, you know, it, it is more a joke than it is a choice because, in general, uh, Trump is not in trouble because he has the wrong idea about Ukraine, and Hegseth is not in trouble because uh, he used the wrong platform about Yemen. Right? These are old stories, and they never change. I said in the description, they're in a pickle because they're fermenting in the same brine. They are like rotting old cucumbers that are trying desperately to change the taste of what they produce. And you have one thing which I think is crystal clear is that you have the concept of plausible deniability. It is hilarious to watch the architects and the planners and the owners of this narrative squirm and reach around to scratch their ass on a different line if they can push it, if they can make it work. We'll make it sound as if it was Pinochet. Oh no, wait, wrong country, wrong decade. Trump is not out of the loop. Trump is not threatening to change history or change the world or attack the deep state. He is the state. This is his war. And ending it by conducting these ridiculous charades in Riyadh, just borrowing, like what, a neighbor's, doesn't he even have Mar-a-Lago? I mean, what do you have to borrow a neighbor's plantation so that you can have these fake talks about peace and about community and agreeing on negotiations? So what you have is the puppy grown up, like Gavroche in the in the Broadway, you know, version of well, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, you better run for cover when the pup grows up, right? And these are puppets on strings, and they are when they have their strings cut, you can't tell what they're going to do. You want to find the CIA on every continent, in every decade, with every president, with every uh, commissioner, every ally, everyone going back. It doesn't, you go to Bloom, goes through 80 something uh, coups in various countries. It depends on what alphabet you use. This is not news. It is news in that we have to keep an eye on it, but this is not a new thing. And you find the biggest whack job that you can get him to work for you to undermine the government or progress in a country you perceive to be uh, in your way, as Simpsons, character used to say, they got in my way. And that was what Operation Gladio is. That's what Operation Paperclip is. That's what all this stuff is about. Making it work the way you want it to work. It's not about democracy. It's not about truth. It's not about doing the right thing. When the US helped, if you want, you can say helped to. It's like lie hop, let it happen on purpose. You don't want to get into all these secondary arguments about who did what, who killed Lumumba, who killed Jimmy Hoffa, who killed Kennedy, who killed who destabilized our bands or um, Allende. All of this is part of the same overarching plan to keep the rich elites in control and in power. And so what the central thing that is happening right now in Ukraine is it is spun out of control, and the US is dealing with the fact, and I say the US because I'm not going to say Trump versus Biden. Biden was the last guy with his hand on the helm. He tried to sneak in a few extra $1 billion worth of deadly missiles and soul crushing attacks on geostability, just crazy World War III luring last minute gasps before he left office to get their puppy to do what they wanted. Now, Trump is trying to put a leash on Pinochet or the Shah. Remember? Come on, people. A lot of you who are watching this grew up in the same country, or at least watched this country in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. They were shopping around for where to dump the Shah when he was overthrown. It's like, I don't want him. Do you want to? I don't know. What do you want to do with it? So we are in the case where Nazis, okay, this is the UNC that was given by Hitler control over Ukraine in April of 1945, just a month before Berlin was sacked. And they consider themselves to be the heirs to that legacy, and the CIA and MI6 and all of these other fake and alphabet soup, organizations have propped up for that long the owners of Ukraine. And Ukraine has gotten bigger and bigger, well, since the 1650s, but certainly since the Soviets came to power, and since the war, since Crimea, and on and on and on. And now this is solidified as the way to get to Russia's underbelly. And there's no question about this. There's no question about who they hired to do it. These were neo-Nazis from the beginning. They still are. Look at, I mean, even a couple of years ago, they were on the naughty list until they're the ones who you have to vote money for, and then you have to pretend that you care. And so since it's not hush money, since it's not the $5 billion that Newland helped spend, then you have to say they're no longer a problem. They're no longer Nazis. Guess what? Nothing of that ever changed. Zelensky never came into power. He was hired as an actor, as a comedian who craves attention. If you've seen that meme, then you all know what I'm talking about. I crave attention. And he was immediately set straight by the Nazis, by the right-wing paramilitary groups that are now in control of large, not saying they run the country, but of course they do. The whole reestablishment of the state of Ukraine that happened following both the Orange Revolution, then the coup in 2014, the secession, the ATO, all of this stuff was to cement the underpinnings of a neo-Nazi run regime. And they told Zelensky, this is on tape, on YouTube, I guess, I don't know, where he went to the front lines and was talking about what he got ostensibly elected on, which was to make peace with the Russians. And they told him, you can shut up. We don't care what you think you're president of. We're here to kill Russians, and we're going to kill as many of them as we can, whether you say so or not. So get with the program. And he has, to the nth degree, he has. So that Stepan Bandera is a national hero. That this has now that the thing is breaking down, intelligence services in Western Europe are doing their best to prevent all this crap from leaking out. It's been the truth for years, and they don't want the container, the vessel, to break and leak. All of the truths that have been covering up the lies that they've been selling about this fountain of democracy, about this commitment to the future of Europe and the future of global unity, et cetera, et cetera. All this stuff is completely meaningless to them. And one of the hypocrites, criminals, liars and whack jobs, like real dyed in the wool, is the grandchildren of these actual Nazis, these Waffen SS or the UN, whatever plaster you want to put on it to make it look like a real wall. Kaja Kallas, whose grandfather was, and she's proud of her own grandfather. So am I. I don't know. But this whole idea of getting the Albanians or Estonians, or what any of the ethno states that you these little sprinkles of pearls on the U.S.'s imperial necklace to choke Russia have been, is to get someone like this into a higher echelon office, right? Went from being the first female prime minister of Estonia, then to the vice president of the EU, in charge of foreign minister of the EU. And she is mouthing the same revision of World War II history that has strapped Western understanding and education for almost 100 years, 80 or so, 75 years. Is it? I don't know. 25 plus 65. It's 80. Oh, yeah, almost 100. Now, how that happens is kind of obvious in terms of how people interact. It's like, this is how you learn what you learn from your parents, and how you understand, how you understood the Soviet Union, how you understood the end of World War II, how you understood all this. Now, she comes out now, and this is where we get to the puppet strings and who's going to take the Shah, and how do we get rid of Pinochet, and how can we pretend? Where's the plausible deniability? She comes out today, 2025, and says that the only way that we can stave off World War III is to defeat Russia. I mean, listen, this is insane. This woman is speaking for the Western world as she sees it. We have to pour as much money as we can to tear apart one of the superpowers with the most advanced nuclear weaponry in human history. And we have to do that right away. And it's like, it is the actual belief system that was indoctrinated all over the West, not just in Estonia, excuse me. No insult to Scott Adams. I think he had it closer to the truth. And it infects education systems all over. This is how we learned. This is how, the CIA collaborated with World War II movies. The idea in the West of who won World War II, how it actually happened, changing history, putting seeds of dreams of history in people's minds, so that you have this growth that is absolutely documented from Pew Research of in the 50s. The French overwhelmingly thought that the Soviets won World War II, right? And then in the mid 90s, it had turned overwhelmingly to the US. And that doesn't happen by chance. And you have the same thing. Canadians had absorbed hundreds and hundreds of Ukrainian Nazis into their society without punishment. Many of them, they gave a standing ovation to one of the Waffen SS in last year, 98-year-old, right? The parliament is standing up and cheering for this Nazi. They actually had to issue a correction and apology to Jews around the world. I don't know why that's limited to Jews. The 27 million Soviets that they killed were not all Jewish. But that's really irrelevant. The point is that Canadians today, and I'm not picking on Canada, this is equally true in the American system, but you have a Canadian ambassador who goes and puts flowers at the cemetery in Russia and talks about how Yalta and the Ribbentrop, how basically revisiting that history, blaming the Soviets and completely ignoring what happened. And the problem is, and that's why I go back in history and back away from Ukraine, zoom out from World War II, zoom out from all of this. The problem is that when you let loose the dogs, which is the main modus operandi of the CIA and all of the media, indoctrination system that they help foment, is that you can't put the genie back in the bottle, and this is no different than finding a place for the Shah. I mean, finding a place for Idi Amin, having to deal with what happened in Chile. Everything that is the a thousand me lies, it never ends. And it's the frustrating part is, from our perspective, that means the really the people. You can say the left, you can say the non-rich or the people who want to speak the truth, is that you're constantly having to push back against the same story, the same lies, the same or a different recipe for the same lies over and over again with people who have a lot more money and a lot more power, a lot bigger reach. And so it's we have to shovel this shit against the tide, basically. And we can see what's happening in this specific case where Callis is running into a bit of a brick wall because the money that has been promised, Starmer's own uh, military is saying like, whoa, 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 he got ahead of himself. You're not going to have troops. They're not going to have troops on the ground. You're not going to have NATO or NATO country troops on the ground. That's the whole point. That's how the war started. Of course, the Russians are never going to come to that. You're not gonna just come up with a better solution than dragging your feet on Minsk. It doesn't happen. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. You break a treaty, you break another treaty, you use another treaty as a lure to get another treaty that you can break. Then you provoke a war and then you lose. And then you say, well, we want a better deal than the first one. I mean, come on. It sounds ridiculous. And of course, this is where it's at this point. You have these silly negotiations or whatever you call them, talks in Riyadh. They spent 12 hours at the table. There was no joint statement because they said, well, it really depends on Kiev. And then Lavrov, even today, came out and gave a short interview that says basically the very same things that they've been saying all along. The same things, territorial, predictable and expected. Fix the problems if we want to have a lasting peace. Nobody wants or needs a temporary ceasefire. What that does is give the Ukrainians time to rearm with your weapons. So here, stop giving them the weapons. Don't give them time to rearm. Admit that we were right about A, B, and C. These territories are Russia. The 4 oblasts plus Crimea are Russia forever. And that's not going to change. And there's no now for Trump to come in and say, well, we're trying to put things back on track is an enormous and expensive, and it's a lie. It's an attempt to save face. That's what it is. The U.S. started this thing, they lost, and they want to save face. And this is the way that they can do it. It's great to have a different president because you can pretend that's a different policy. It's clearly only an extension of that same policy. And to be fair and to be honest, it's not a new policy. It's not anything. This guy, we have to stop the people who are trying to say that Trump is somehow anti-war, or this is a different thing, or he is for radical change. Again, having billionaires pick your pockets and tell you where you're wasting money is not a way to get ahead. I don't know what I'm sick of going over that same thing. It's just not, and I don't know who misunderstands it and why. It comes down to these facts. There are no choices. The geopolitical agenda remains the same. It's still with the same focus, still anti-China, still anti-Iran, pro-Israel, etc., etc., etc. And that's why the Yemen thing. And here is the laughable thing about liberals and Democrats and the loyal opposition within this fake idea of a system with its nonsense elections is that the other half on the other side of the aisle. The big problem they have with this is that the guy spilt it on what, I forget the name of it. You know, you techies know this. This is on this platform, and it's a breach of his security clearances and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It is a war crime. That's what they do. They lie and they commit crimes against humanity. He's going in to bomb Yemen because Yemen dares to speak up and act out against the genocide that Israel is perpetrating against the Palestinians with the support and training and weapons provided by the United States. It has nothing to do with what computer he used. That's crap. And if you can make it, again, like Trump does with Biden. Oh, Biden did such a bad job in Ukraine. He could have done this. He could have done this. Buddy, you could have pulled the plug in 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020. You didn't. And you vaunted your own legacy as anti-Russian as the next guy. This is imperial policy. That's how it works. That's how you are. It's what you do. And you get the little ones, the little guys, these Estonians and ethno states in the Baltic to say, we need this, we need this. It's like, okay, guess what? You're giving 5.2 billion rubles to your defense budgets collectively or whatever, and you're trying to tell this is. I saw one post who went back to quote Georges Clemenceau, the former prime minister of France, he said maybe they misunderstood when he said that democracy is when knowing that lice can eat lions. Like, good luck with that. You know, you don't just because you add a penny to the bucket doesn't mean you're going to get to say where all the money is spent and how much is going to be needed and so on. This is something that I mean, I as a an opponent of these policies for years, I was very concerned that the Russians seem to be so ready to go along with Trump or this and that. And then I realized they're just okay, but this guy wants to talk. Yeah, and he knows it's between us. Guess what? Of course it is. It always was. It's a Russian proxy war. I mean, proxy war against Russia. We know Russia's involved. It's a U.S. proxy war against Russia. Always has been. And it's one of many that also involve Iran, Venezuela, Libya, Syria. I mean, come on. There's so many of them that have, and they're still ongoing. And someone is willing to say, look, it's about us, and we have to solve this between us. Nobody else, the Europeans, if they're going to still, that's over. Guess what? You're not that important anymore. I hate to say it, but the Second World War and the history and the geopolitical structure that it gave birth to is crumbling. And this constant notion of having plausible deniability to have the puppet that you don't say you don't fund, but actually fund, and then actually say you fund, but then turns out to have been a whack job, and you can't get rid of them, and you're pretending to be the hallmark of democracy, etc. That's changing. And the what Gramsci's quote about the time of monsters is upon us, and you see the death of the old world and the new struggling to be born, and the new one is not that great. And what Trump's team or side of the aisle, not the aisle, the I don't know, the team of oligarchs with whatever face of the oligarchy. I don't know how to define them as separate or different. It's not a party. It's not a class. If we're talking about it in in opposition to the whatever CIA Democrat, the one that just left or is still leaving, but changing that idea of what happens with the post-war structure. That is, U.S. is the hegemon, and we are a beacon of truth and a beacon of hope to the world. And everybody falls in line. Bernie Sanders, Mr. Socialist, falls in line with this with the snap of a finger. Right? We have been fighting for democracy for 200 years. Yeah. Do you believe that, sir, Senator? Okay, because if you do, then you've lost all your populist trailings. That's ridiculous. So if we don't promote that one, then Trump wants something like the hustler, the deal maker. We don't need to be, which realpolitik, except realpolitik, when Kissinger defined it, meant real. You're actually dealing with reality. When instead he wants like lazy backroom real estate deals that can help you if your dad, gives you a bunch of I don't know, slumlord titles. But it doesn't work in this environment because everyone already does that. The Chinese and the Russians have always done it like that. This is the deal. This is where we don't agree with you. We don't like you, and we're not an ally, but we'll go along with this because we think this will help. But the Americans have this idea of we are the truth and the light. It's like, Jesus, come to earth. No man can come to global equality but through me. And we can punish those who, don't agree and favor those who do, et cetera, force the currency, force this. Brokering real trades is the way of the world, and it's the way of BRICS, and it's the way of the future. So remember, whether it's callous or hapless Hegseth, still the same old story. Thanks for paying attention. Hope to see you soon.